always something. Like I knew that this wasn't gonna play out well for Mel. First and foremost, the turnaround of the fight was too quick. It's like, remember, all of a sudden, I'm like, dang, he's fighting Charlo. Like, if you're gonna fight Canelo at a new weight, you've been off 16 months, you know what I'm saying, off of an injury, you're fighting the biggest guy that you ever faced, you jumping up two weight classes, you need to be a little bit more prepared and have more time to be able to compete at that level against somebody like Canelo. You understand what I'm saying? So you already got the deck stacked against you. Also, what Canelo knows, Canelo had been up at 168 for quite a while. He knows it's an adjustment that you have to make in order to feel comfortable, to be able to go against those bigger, stronger guys. And if you had never done that before, at that, especially at that level, again, it's going to take some time for you to get prepared. So once he's getting hit and he's trying to like use his physicality, and it's like, dang, this dude way too strong. That's something that over time you start getting adjusted and used to. Not just like voila. You know, some people can do it, maybe a Mayweather or somebody, but it has to be, but you're not coming in 16 months later. So those are the things that I thought that was already playing against Mel already. And so it's like now, man, I just got dropped. Like he probably hit him a couple other times where he kind of buzzed him a little bit. Let me go ahead and get this payday. And let me take my butt back down to the weight class that I campaign at for real. You understand what I'm saying? Where I'm effective and try to get some paydays down there. So that's what I saw yesterday. It was a good performance by Canelo under the circumstances, but Canelo always does this. You understand what I'm saying? Like people in this day and age, that's all you got to do is get somebody in the ring with a name, and then you can check off the box. So now people want to say he took care of the not wanting to fight a slick African American fighter. I don't think Mel is all that slick. I just think that he's athletic. Is I don't know what when he's at his best. Um, but he same thing. Caleb Plant when Caleb Plant signed that contract, it was like, dang, you about to fight Canelo that quickly, like about 8 weeks or you know. So and then he had a little bit of a layoff, injury and stuff like that. It's always that way. Jacobs, okay, I'm gonna put a weight clause in there, and it's always some type of advantage, some type of gamesmanship that he's gonna have. Now, all in all, he signed the fight. You understand what I'm saying? He signed his name on the dotted line. He was in there. Probably could have did a little bit more. But for face value, what you're gonna say is Canelo beat another pound for pound guy. He won every round, and so just from that standpoint, you know, it's a victory for Canelo. It was what it was. It was what I expected. I thought Canelo might have been able to get Mel out of there because I thought Mel was going to push it a little bit more and go out on his shield. And I'm kind of glad he didn't, so he can live to fight another day. What did you see, Danny?
I kind of saw it the way that both of you guys saw it in a way, you know what I mean? In the sense that like I can understand why Vel would be disappointed, but I can also, to your point, Will, I can understand why Mel fought the way he fought, like on some check clear. I could go out on my shield, but I'm not gonna win the fight anyway. So let me go ahead and live the fight another day. And then when the post fight happened and they asked me what I want to do, going back to my weight class, call out the guys there, which he did, and like move on, you know. So I understood. In terms of the scoring of the fight, I scored it, 119 to 108. It was clearly going to be a wide scorecard regardless. It was just a matter of, did you give Charlo like maybe one round, maybe two, or did you just give him nothing, and then take away the point for the knockdown. Um, you guys pretty much summed up the fight itself, so I don't really have to get in that. But like, I understood why he also fought that way, given the difference in weight class. He stayed on the back foot a lot. Um, you're going to show a fighter respect if your punches aren't having any effect and you keep getting walked down. Like that's what you call survival mode. It was like in certain spots he was mentally trying to hype himself up to stay in the fight, but for Canelo, it looked like a sparring session. The only thing that I'll say is, kind of to your point again, Will, is that like, at the end of the fight, Canelo was saying like, I'm back. And his stamina did look better. And that might be somewhat related to moving his camp to Lake Tahoe, where the higher altitude and stuff. But if he is back, I don't think this was a fight to make that determination, because he wasn't really bothered, and Charlo wasn't really throwing enough to test that stamina. Charlo threw, according to your punch stats, 398 punches. That's about 33 punches around. That's not enough at that level to really test, even though they're higher weight class. Like, that's honestly closer to like a cruiserweight punch output, or maybe even a heavyweight punch output than a super middleweight. And so, to me, the jury's still out on his stamina, but it also depends on who he fights, and that's just the statistics. That's just not a lot of punches to throw per round at an elite super middleweight. And so, you're just not going to bother someone in that way. So I think Canelo was, like you said, he did what he did. Like, he made a marketable fight, where he could pretty much get the appearance and maybe get his confidence up that like he's back. And in terms of what's next, what we'll get into in a little bit, we'll see now that he's reestablished himself, quote unquote. We'll see who he actually uses that momentum to fight. But I think we all saw the jig, though, in terms of like, if this fight were made like a year ago, like, and even at the beginning of it, we were just kind of like, what? You know what I mean? And so we saw the jig. I see in the comments, he says, so how many punches you got to throw to be an elite genius to be elite? Look at the statistics. Like, that's not a high punch output. 33 punches is not a high punch output. I literally looked at CompuBox before I made my comment. So if you want to check CompuBox yourself, you're more welcome to. But when you're trying to keep someone off you, I'm not saying the outcome would have been different. I'm just saying, if you want to keep someone off you, 33 punches is not enough. That's all I got. What you got? And salute to Ty. Shout out for appreciate you joining us.
Shout out Ty. We got the legend in the building. What's going on, legend? Before you get started, Ty, you watch basketball?
Nah, not really, man. Not like I watch boxing. Nah.
Okay. So but I'm gonna put you up on some game, good brother. This season, I want you to check out the Milwaukee Bucks, man.
I knew where this is going.
We got Dame Lillard. But anyway, what was your take yesterday on what you saw with Canelo and your guy? You know what I'm saying? Like I told y'all last week, they say that I'm a homer for Spence, and then his boy is a homer for David Benavidez, and you can't say anything. So he might be mad at you fellas, but what you said about Jamel, you know what I'm saying? That's how Ty is when it comes to Mel. But what did you think yesterday about his performance and Canelo?
I think Mel was, fighting smart. If you trade with Canelo, you're going to go down. So I think he was just fighting smart and not trying to be another KO victim. So he was using a lot of footwork, constantly, shuffling Canelo, backing up. But one thing I noticed, like, every time Canelo would throw his big shots, he would clinch. So that was telling me right there, he was uncomfortable with Canelo's power. And, of course, he did go down. So, at the end of the day, to me, he wasn't like survival mode. But, I do think if he let his hands go more, he would definitely went down even earlier. So, congrats to both guys, giving the fans a good fight. But, yeah, I think Maul could have just did a little better. But like you guys mentioned, he did move up 2 weight classes. He is coming off a lot of inactivity. So, but yeah, I think he was just using his footwork, trying to be smart. Because you notice, like, when Canelo fought Triple G, Triple G, even when Canelo was on the ropes, Triple G didn't even throw like his serious shots like that. So, that just shows that Canelo's got serious power. Anybody that really trades with Canelo is going to go down. So, I mean, my hat's off to Jamel, for fighting the way he did. But to me, he was just fighting smart, using his footwork.
Yeah, DT3, he's real active in the chat. He says he's saying that he don't think Mel is an elite fighter. And what do you fellas think about that? Would you consider Mel an elite? I think he put himself in like top 10 pound for pound on the top 10 pound for pound list, and perhaps top 5 prior to this fight. But what do you guys think about him?
Hey, you don't win 4 belts in a weight class and not be elite. Period.
Appreciate you, Bill.
Yeah.
Even if he doesn't have defense, you don't win 4 belts in a weight class and lack eliteness.
Look, listen, fella, you can come on in, man. I'm not mad at him. You know, what I mean, some of the comments that he make, I like his passion. You understand what I'm saying? But here's the
You
thing.
want to do this?
He can. He's more than welcome to speak his piece. We can get him in, get him out. But what I was gonna say is, but see what he's saying. I kind of mentioned that, but I wouldn't necessarily say Mel isn't elite, because of that resume. So now he's saying, who did he beat? All right. So we looking at the guys that he beat for his belts. I thought that the Harrison wins were good. The Castaño win was really good. You understand what I'm saying? And those like are the top guys in his division when he faced them, and he's beating champions. You understand what I'm saying? It wasn't quite like in question as far as how you looked at Crawford when he beat Ndango and those guys. You understand what I'm saying? He beat some legitimate guys. I don't know if there was like world beaters, the Lubin win. He has some really good wins underneath his belt. So I wouldn't go that far, DT3. You understand what I'm saying? No, I'm not saying Castaño is elite, because you can go through anybody's resume like that. You can, like, if with a fine tooth comb, you can be like, oh, okay, was he elite? No, but he was a hella fighter. He was a really good fighter. Who under whose resume are you going to say was that guy elite? You can kind of do that with Canelo. If you want to, if we can go through and say Cotto was old when he beat Plant, is Plant elite? You understand what I'm saying? Like, is Billy Joe Saunders elite? But you beat enough like B+ level fighters, then that's what your resume consists of. Was Jacobs elite? Was Jacobs weight drain because he had the. So again, you can do that with anybody's resume if you want. But I don't want to spend too much time. Thank you so much for your comments in the chat, fellas. Also,
can I say something real quick?
You can.
The last thing I'm gonna say is, like, I don't know what, like, elite is subjective. You know what I mean? Like, but the last thing I'll say is that if you fight the people in front of you and they are the best people at your weight class to fight, like if you're consistently beating ranked number 2, number 3, number 4, number ranked, people in your division, and you are the undisputed champion in that division because you went out and got all the belts, like, I'm not in the business of calling people elite and not elite, but I can say that he's done just about everything there is to do at super welterweight, to the point where now you have new up and comers to beat. But in terms of who came in there with him, he beat all them dudes already. That's all I got.
Yeah, the guys who I can say that I see that I would consider definitely elite. The kid from the Philippines, well, not the Philippines, but Japan. You got him. Inoue. You got Crawford is elite. I think Canelo's elite because you can see it. You know what I'm saying? It's like certain things that they do, that's elite level stuff. You know what I mean? And you got some guys that are on the cusp of being elite, but you got, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, as far as elite, he's one of the top fighters, top pound for pound fighters that we have in the sport of boxing. That's for sure. I don't care what anybody said. Now, what do you guys think about this, though, as far as him returning? So the next thing we want to do is kind of like talk about where do you think these guys need to go from here? Like, as far as Canelo, who would you like to see Canelo fight? He has that 3-fight deal, or now 2 fights left on that deal that he has with the PBC. Who do you think should be next? Now, I figure he's in the business of whooping on brothers. You understand what I'm saying? He beat the Smiths, he beat the Cottos. So now it's going to be like tic-tac-toe with Jermell and Jamal. I think Jamal's going to be one of those other guys because we're going to talk about who he's going to fight next a little bit later. But do you like the move from Mel to go back down to 154 and possibly fight Crawford as well?
Okay. Oh yeah, you want to speak, Danny?
I didn't know how we were doing it, but you got it if you want to. If we can keep that same order actually, so okay. That's fine.
For Canelo, to me, to Will, you have a point. He may just fight Jamal. I would hate that. I think he's realistically is going to fight for Cinco de Mayo. That's going to be his next fight, realistically. Well, he could take a fight if he wants to stay active, but let's just say for Cinco de Mayo, it's very likely I would want him to fight the winner of David Benavidez and Demetrius Andrade. That's what I would want. It's no other fights really out there for him that we can say, hey, Canelo's that guy. And that's why he's been losing ground as the pound for pound guy is that you still got that guy out there, man. And you got other people out there that's better fights. There was a time period where Jamal would have been a good fight for him, but not right now, not today. For Jamel is kind of like a double-edged sword a little bit, because yes, he did try to preserve himself and not go out on a shield, but in some instances, he kind of reduces marketing value for just a little bit. And if he decides to go out on 154, because he came in so high, like at 167 and a half, how much he weighed in, it's going to be tougher for him to get down to 154. So he did say he want to go down to 154. He possibly want to take on, Terrence Crawford, which I think that fight is easier to happen. I don't know why he wants to, well, I know why, but there's also Tim Tszyu has been out there. That him and Charlo should have happened like 7, 8, 9 months ago, and Tim Tszyu was just waiting for a shot at the title, so they kind of boxed him out already. So it just seems like it'll just be Bud Crawford versus Jamel Charlo for all 4 of the belts at light middleweight. That's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for letting the plan, good brother. What I would say is this: is that, and I agree with DT3 on this, that it's a bad idea. You just mentioned that as well, as far as the dropping down in weight. I don't like that, but again, that's all of these guys are doing the same thing. So you're gonna give Bud Crawford another advantage going into the ring, and it's gonna be the same thing again. He's not going to look like he did before he moved up in weight. He's going to do the Kell Brook thing when he went up to fight Triple G. Then he comes back down. And he's muscular. So when you're coming back down this time, it's not going to be the same. Like, you're going to be losing muscle and things like that. Your time is going to be off a little bit because you fought the bigger guy. And when you come back down this time, fighting somebody who's a sharpshooter, somebody who's fast and quick, you might not be able to get adjusted. By the time you get adjusted, he's up on the scorecards for round 0. So now you got to press a little bit. And then Bud Crawford's just going to toy with you. So that's what's going to happen. And then Bud Crawford is going to go through all of these weight divisions. They're going to say he's like the best fighter ever. So Tank Crawford, Tank Crawford, Davis. You understand what I'm saying? Like, these dudes, they do the same stuff. It's the same magic trick over and over. Now, as far as Canelo, I would love to see him fight Benavidez, but I don't think that's going to happen. What's going to happen is when Benavidez fights whoever he's about to fight, then Canelo's probably going to announce somebody he's going to fight. And it's like, okay, we couldn't fight because you already was. They're going to do something like that, man. Canelo fights a lot of a lot of good guys. It's just not when you want him to fight him. You know what I'm saying? He has to wait until the right opportunity to seize the opportunity there with the guys that he's going to face. He typically does that. So I don't know who he's going to fight next. Maybe Mel, if Mel looks good in his next fight, or if Mel just gets a victory. Maul gets a victory, then he might go in that direction. But what say you, fellas? I don't want to talk your ear off. We got enough perspectives on here. And DT, that's why I say, man, just come on here, because I totally disagree with you when you said Floyd did the same thing. Floyd did not do the same thing. What Floyd did was Madonna coming off a bad victory when he fought Madonna. No, he was not. Cotto had just come off, a good victory when he fought him. Canelo was coming off one of his best victories when he fought him. So I totally disagree as far as him facing those guys when he faced them. But anyway, go ahead, fellas.
Yeah, in terms of Charlo, it's a matter of how he gets there. You know what I mean? So and we also don't know what's going to happen with Crawford and Spence. So we don't know if they're going to rematch. And so if they rematch, then we're talking a year from now. And if we're talking a year from now, in my opinion, Charlo is better off taking a light touch at maybe a catch weight somewhere between 154 and 160, and then trying to look at against Crawford, and B back at 154. Period. But I do agree that it's not a good idea to move up that much and then move back down that much. I disagree. I do agree. But then in terms of undisputed, that's not a thing right now because you have the winner of Zoo and Mendoza. That person's gonna have the WBO champion, so that person's gonna have to go through them if they want to be undisputed again. And so, we just don't know what's gonna happen in between these fights. But if he were to fight the winner of Zoo and Mendoza or Crawford, a year from now, I would be very okay with that. In terms of Canelo, to quote him at the end of the fight, he said, "I don't care, give me anybody," which leaves it open, right? Because obviously we want to see him fight the winner of Benavidez versus Andre, but there's no way to tell with him. And then he didn't give us anything to work with based on what he said. As good as Bud is, Charlo proved once again, there's weight classes for a reason. Like John Ryder looked better against Canelo, but I don't think Ryder is a better fighter than Charlo pound for pound, and as good as Crawford is, like what he does is just not going to be enough if he continues to get walked down. You know what I mean? Like I've in these instances, I've gone back to when I was, boxing more regularly. I train something different now, but when I would spar some of those lighter guys, like those amateurs would be better than me. Like they'll be better fighters, but sometimes my coach would say like, yeah, you won that one. And for me, it wasn't because I was better. It was because I didn't mind taking what they were throwing at me because I would just walk them down. That stuff wasn't really bothering me. And I think that would be the case. That was the case with Charlo, and it would be the case with Bud, I think. But maybe, like I said, maybe this was a very marketable tune-up to take on a somebody at 168. But and he also said that he wants to fight another 4 to 5 years. And so at some point, if that's the time frame you're putting on yourself, you're going to have to start fighting some of these guys because people are going to, they're going to start coming after you even more so than they are now. So I don't know if he's still in there to be great mode, but with that time frame, is like you got to fight somebody. We'll see. What you think, Ty?
But Ty, before you start, man, you see how Danny got the same colors as Canelo?
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. For Canelo, I would like to see him fight, the winner of Benavidez and Andre. They're supposed to fight, November 25th. So that would be huge, Canelo and Benavidez, Cinco de Mayo. So that would be a huge fight for, May of next year. And as far as Mel, I would like for him to get back into negotiations with Tim Tszyu if Tim Tszyu is successful against Brian Mendoza, or just take the Tim Tszyu Brian Mendoza winner. But I wouldn't want to see him fight, Crawford. Of course, Crawford and Spence, got to do their rematch. Whatever. We'll just see how that plays out. But I think the most realistic options for Canelo is Benavidez, and the realistic option for Charlo is to take on, Tim Tszyu versus Brian Mendoza winner.
Yeah. I was gonna say this a couple things before we move on to the next part. I don't want to spend a whole lot on some of these topics because it seems like we'll just be, overdoing it, to a certain degree. But a couple of things about Mel. I didn't like his demeanor heading into this fight. I like a more edgy Mel. I think that a lot of those guys, they have a little bit too much respect for Canelo, and that goes into being okay with losing to Canelo. You understand what I'm saying? Like you get to a point where, I just lost to Canelo or whatever, and then you content with that. I don't like that when it comes to that. And then also, if he fights Mendoza, Tszyu, see at this stage of his career, is he really going to get credit for beating those guys? Because people have seen him do that before. And it's like, okay, now you at a stage. I think for him, it's more so getting the matches like the biggest bang for your buck sort of thing, or the challenges, what I'm saying, at this stage. So we'll see. Only he knows what he wants to do. Also, I'm gonna skip past that, and we can go to the next one. Erickson Lubin, he defeated Jesus Ramos in an upset yesterday. Now, I personally didn't see the fight. I'm gonna let you fellas cook on this, but I did hear a lot about the judging. And so I did a little research, and what I found out is that the judges of the fight was Ray Charles.
POP, hold it down.
what you fellas think about that fight, man?
Hey,
Mama.
shout out to poor Arthur, Texas. You feel me?
Is it true? Was it a robbery or was it a close fight?
Me personally, I thought it was a close fight. You know, to be honest, I thought I could see. If you asked me who won the fight, I thought Ramos won the fight, but I thought it was. I didn't think it was wide and dominant as they were trying to make it out to be. And I felt like the commentators were very like, man, every time Ramos did something, whoa, look at him. He's controlling the fight. Like Ramos would land a body shot. They're like, oh, Lubin hurt. And Lubin would, do his thing, sometimes. And it seemed like they wouldn't want to talk about him. It's almost like they discarding him. And I'm not saying that Lubin did this performance or he should have won or all that. But what I'm saying is there was some shadiness on both sides as far as the judges. I thought that it seemed like someone to get the memo. The judges wanted Lubin to win, and the commentators and PBC wanted Ramos to win because I thought the commentating was very, very biased. But also, Lubin wasn't really at certain spots doing enough, and certain things that he could have done he might have gotten hurt, but Kevin Cunningham was really trying to get him to let his hands go a little bit more. I thought that would have helped, but like I said, I was rooting for Lubin. You know what I'm saying? He did win. I thought that he lost a close fight, but I don't think it is as crazy as people were making it out to be because it's a lot of rounds they wasn't giving Lubin credit for, and then also Ramos pretty much gave away like the last third of that fight. He was giving it away. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you can't get your foot off the gas too many times, and he admitted that. So that's what I saw in the fight.
Like I said, I didn't see the fight, so I'm gonna let y'all fellas cook. But I am gonna go over these punch stats though. The punch stats,
yeah, I don't believe in punch stats. I don't believe that.
If the punch stats that they have here will indicate that it was a robbery, if you're looking at these punch stats, because if you look at the total punches, Ramos outlanded Lubin and significantly, and then the jabs was close. But then you look at those power punches that would indicate that it was a robbery. What about you, Danny? What you see in the fight yesterday?
Yeah, when you looked at, I gave Lubin the first round because it was mostly filling out round, but I thought he did more with the jab, But the second through like those middle rounds, it looked like Ramos started to walk him down. He found success to the body. He did a good job of using Lubin, his high guard, to his advantage. He would go to the body. Lubin was fighting off the back foot a lot, and it was Ramos uses the hard guard as well, though. So I would like to see Lubin go to the body more. But it was like when you were on your back foot like that, again, you kind of get in survival mode. Lubin, I don't know about the history, but he wasn't a good back foot fighter last night. And so, going into the 9th round, like Vel said, he took his foot off the gas. And so it looked like, and then there's one thing in the corner that Ramos' trainer said. I don't remember which round, but he's like, you don't have to stop him. You can keep winning rounds. And it was in those rounds where he was looking to class higher. He was looking too big. And I feel like mentally he started to like that's a true statement, but it seemed like he gradually became content with just winning the fight by decision. And he was kind of fighting as if it was assumed that he was going to win. And like neither fighter impressed in the last 4 rounds, but it seemed like just all body language, it seemed like Ramos was more confident than busy, and Lubin was still like somewhat trying, And so, the judges scored it 115, 113, 116, 112, 117, 111, all for Lubin. Obviously, that 117, 111 is ridiculous. My eyes told me that Ramos edged it, but my unofficial scorecard kind of had it a draw because, well, I wouldn't say a draw, but you can make the argument because if you gave him the first round and the last 4, and then maybe you have a swing around in the middle, that's 6-6, But, I would have thought that Ramos was still going to pull it off. But to Vel's point, I don't have any sympathy for fighters who admit they're going to take rounds, who admit they took rounds off. at this level, you essentially get 2 fights a year. If you're fighting 10, 12 rounders, you're getting 2, maybe 3 fights a year. That's roughly, you got 72 minutes a year to change the course of your career. Based on those 72 minutes, people are going to say, oh, you're not elite. Oh, you cook. Oh, you should hang it up. Or, oh, you up next. So in Ramos' case, you had 66 minutes because the fight he had against Spencer was a 10-rounder. So you have a stage like a Canelo co-feature. The crowd is on your side. The commentary is gassing you as possibly the next Canelo. And you mail it in. You out of the 66 minutes you have this year, you mail in the last 12 minutes of that. Like, so even if you win, like, that's on you. You feel me? So even if you win, you got booed on your way out. The crowd was on your side. They booed you on the way out, bro. You know what I mean? And so you did that to yourself. So for me, I didn't like either fighter's performance, but congrats to Lubin, because at least you still continued to try. At least you didn't make assumptions. At least you fought as if your career was on the line because you didn't want to be a gatekeeper. And this guy kind of came off privileged because the commentary and the crowd was on his side. So, for Lubin, this win it moves him up the WBA rankings, puts him in line for a possible mandatory soon. I think he's, I just checked it. He's number 3 in the WBA now for this eliminator. And so, congrats to him. But I don't have any sympathy for Ramos. You could argue robbery, but similar to Loma, where he thought he had to fight one against Haney and took the 12th round off. Well, guess what? You lost, brother. So shout out to Lubin. You know what I mean? Oh, that's on you, Ty. What you got?
Yeah, I can't speak too much on it because like I didn't have my attention 100% on the fight because I was getting ready, set up, to cover the main event. But I will say that I was wrong in my prediction. I was predicting, Ramos by stoppage. Lubin, he doesn't have the best chin. We seen what happened with him, and Jamel, we seen what happened with him in Fundora. But he's coming off a nice win in his last fight. But from what I did see, like Danny, I agree with you. I think that instruction in his corner kind of made him take his foot off the gas and like didn't press as hard. But congrats to Lubin. Moving forward, I hope he gets another big fight and he can make a statement. But from what I did see, I felt Ramos edged it. But congrats to Lubin for winning the fight. But of course, everybody's screaming, gunpoint robbery.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they just need some uniform scoring, man. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't see the fight, so I can't really say yay or nay if it was a robbery, non-robbery, or whatever. It's just that you see too much of that in boxing where it's a lot of controversy, and it should just be a little bit more of a known as far as like clear cut who's winning. You know what I mean? Like give us some type of criteria that you're going to use in order to determine who's winning the fights. I don't know if open scoring will work because sometimes with open scoring, you get those boring fights because somebody might be up and then they know, okay, I got the first 7 rounds. So now I don't just have, only thing I got to do is just coast and run around the rest of the ring. I mean, run around the rest of the fight and I'm going to get the victory. So that may not be the answer, but we certainly need, something that makes things less controversial. But people like controversy. That's what happens, and you get us talking about some of these things. But shout out to the judges. You understand what I'm saying? And then also, I'm gonna start this one off because yesterday I was checking this out. So I came back from my spot, so I'm over there kicking it, and I came back because Vail, you sent the information about the Hoffman Center Theater showing the fight. So I went over there. I went to my spot. For the second day in a row. The first day was a really beautiful day. You understand what I'm saying? Beautiful night. It ended really well. So I go back to my spot, and I was going to consider getting a ticket to the Canelo, event that was at the movie theater. But I was starting to get a little tired. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm looking and I'm seeing the Resendez fight was on. And I was like, nah, I don't want, because I'd be in there too long. And I just had me a few cocktails. So then I came back. Resendez was going off. And then this fight came on. What I noticed in the Mario Barrios, Yordenis Ugas fight is that Ugas didn't even look like this is another guy who's on a long layoff. And you might need to take, Barrios is tough. He's he's young. You understand what I'm saying? He's gritty, feisty. And so coming off a long layoff like that, especially with the eye injury, like that's a tough task. And going into the fight, like you said, Ty, how you made a bad prediction. I knew that there was a chance that Ugas might look old because he's getting up there. He has had some wars. He had the Spence injury that he had to overcome, and then, like I said, that long lengthy layoff. I just, for me, in order for me to pick Barrios over Ugas, I just had to see him look old first, and then I could have made a better determination. But he was old yesterday. So going into the fight, just his usually Ugas looks so big and strong for 147 pounds. To me, he looked a little like just an old dude who's big and strong. Like his muscles just didn't look right. He didn't look right. So and he looked kind of like a little bit off balance and stuff like that. I think Vargas landed like a little jab in the 5th round that put him on his seat. He was stunning him with punches. And then it just seemed like that eye, even though it may be healed, anytime he'd get hit in there, it was causing him some damage. In the 12th round, he caught him with a little uppercut. And then Ugas, he dropped him. I was hoping that they stopped the fight, man, because he was just looking bad. Hopefully Ugas lets it go, man. Like, I just think that at this particular point, all the damage that he's taking, he just don't look right. But shout out to Mario Barrios because he was in there doing his thing. And that's what I was saying last week. We don't know. Mario Barrios still young enough, and he's still coming into his own where you don't know how far he can go as far as his skill. He gave Tank a really good fight. You understand what I'm saying? And he just wore out, with the weight clause and everything. So that was an impressive performance for him for being able to put a fork in an old dude. You know what I'm saying? So he did what he had to do. He's moving on to bigger and better things. And as you see in the title, it says he captures the interim WBC gold. So that puts him in shot for like the real title. So once Crawford relinquishes those belts, then he's gonna be right there. Last thing I'm gonna say, the person who should be ashamed of themselves is Keith Thurman, because you would have got that Yordenis Ugas, you would have did the same thing to him because he wasn't going to be any top tier 147-pound fighter in the condition that he is now. But salute the Yordenis Ugas. He has the heart of a lion. He stayed in there. He kept coming forward. He kept trying to be victorious, but it just wasn't there. What say you, fellas? What did you see?
Yeah, I saw what you saw, Will. I think Ugas just looked, old and flat. Really, he never had great feet, you know what I'm saying? But it really showed me just how once you start aging and slow, it really it exemplifies your flaws a lot more. And really, his feet are like concrete, to be honest. He always stands in one place with that high guard. But to Mario Barrios' credit, I mean, he was working off a great jab. He was really working that jab, using his length, even though the arms is about the same arm length, he was really using that distance very, very well, and letting Ugas follow him around. And Ugas, for him to be a pressure fighter and be pressuring Barrios, he didn't really have a lot of power. And when you lack power like that, and you're trying to be a pressure fighter, it can spell your doom. So I knew it was a bad sign when, even early in the fight, when Barrios caught Ugas with the jab coming in and Ugas went down. I think it was the 2nd round. So I knew this was going to be a long night. So then when his eyes start closing, the right eye, I'm thinking like, man, is that the other eye? Then I researched the Spence fight, and I'm like, it's the same eye. And that same eye started to close, and the doctors just trying to get in there, seeing if they were going to stop it or not. But props to Ugas, big heart, especially showing in that 12th round when he went down. I think it was by a left hook, and he was badly hurt in that round, and he still was trying to fight it off. Some of that is what I would like to have seen from like Jamel yesterday, but because I think the Elijah fight might have been the best fights of the night, the better fights of the night. So props to Mario Barrios. This is a fight I really didn't see him winning, and unless Ugas got old. and Ugas got old. And like you said, Will, Keith Thurman should be kind of ashamed of himself, man. That would have been an easy comeback for him, man. It's like you let that just get away. I think Keith Thurman is probably one. Man, he makes the worst decisions in boxing to me. He lets all the opportunities get away from him. And I don't want to talk too much about Thurman, but that's what I saw.
Yeah, I won't belabor on the fight, but again, just like you guys said, shout to Barrios. He has a lot of heart. He looked like the younger, quicker fighter here, and he's not like a top welterweight, right? But he maximized the ability that he has. He trains like DT said, he trains year round. He moved to Vegas. He immersed himself in that culture, that Vegas boxing culture, and he prepared himself for this fight, and he won. He's now the interim champ. Ugas, he showed hard as well. The volume just wasn't there to keep Barrios off him. And so like that layoff on top of his age definitely showed. I don't know if this is an indication of where Barrios is or Ugas more, but he did what he had to do. And, as WBC interim, it puts him in the line to fight, in theory, to fight Crawford, but we know he's probably going to vacate. So Cody Crowley is now ranked number 1 behind him. And so what I think more likely to happen is he's going to fight him if, once Crawford vacates, he's going to fight him for the full WBC championship. But we'll see, because Crowley is also ranked high on the IBF side. So all 3 of them are PBC. So Boots might say, hey, let me get him instead. So I don't know if, because Boots is the IBF interim. And so I don't know, but I could see both Barrios and Boots using their interim championships to become a full championship, and then seeing what they can unify or who they can fight. So we'll see. What you got, Ty?
Yeah, I want to say I was right in my prediction. I predicted that Barrios, he would win by decision. Ugas had his moments. I think he was doing good with the countering. He was landing some good counter shots. But that eye definitely worried me, man. That eye was bad. It's obviously that eye hasn't been fully healed, from the Spence fight. So going forward with Ugas, man, I think he should really consider retirement. Because if you guys are familiar with Ramon Brewster, he had vision problems where he had to get surgery a few times to regain his vision. So I don't want to see Ugas in a situation like that. But Barrios, I think his height presented a lot of problems, for Ugas. And I think even though Ugas stayed in the fight, I think he was starting to surrender. After he went down, he spit the mouthpiece out 2 times back to back. So I think that was like a sign of surrender. But he stayed in there. So hats off to him, man. Hats off to him for staying in there. And he's earned big paydays. He won the bout off Manny Pacquiao. I think that was a good shot at redemption, since he really should have beat Porter. He had a big payday against, Spence. So I think he's earning, some good paydays in his career. But going forward, man, I think he really, needs to hang it up. That's something, him and the team should really discuss. Either that or, just go face lower competition.
Mm-hmm. See, here's the thing. I hope, DT saying a lot in that chat, but I hope he's not right about this. See, that's the stuff that I'm talking about. And that seemed like that might be right up their alley, is putting Boots in there with Barrios. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's cool. That's a cool little fight, but I just want to see Boots fight somebody like who has more of a package. You know what I'm saying? Like his last fighter, the last guy that he fought had power, but that was it. He was slow as molasses. He couldn't do anything, had no defense, nothing. And then Barrios is kind of like, to me, still a little blown up 140 pounder. He's like, to me, like a 145 pounder. And then that'll be right up their alley as far. Then I'm like, dang, what's gonna happen when Boots fight a complete fighter? You know what I'm saying? With some experience. Will he ever fight? Well, Tank don't ever fight anybody like this. So I mean, he might be using that same strategy in game.
But who else is it though? You know what I mean? Like Remember when we had that conversation after Crawford Spence, and I was like, well, who's left at welterweight? Like, I'm looking at the rankings. Like,
It isn't.
Ortiz, I mean, maybe Stanionis, but other than that, Ortiz is gone. He's not going to fight Alexis Rocha, who's top 5, who's number 5 in the ring, by the way. Cody Crowley's number 6. You know what I mean? So it's like, who else is there? Now, I do think he's going to fight Barrios eventually, but I think that because they're both in their driver's seat for their sanctioning bodies, they're going to become full champs first, and then they're going to end up unifying. So the winner will be the IBF WBC champ, and then that person is going to try to become undisputed eventually. You know what I mean? But is nobody else for? I don't see nobody else for him unless he dares to be great and move up to 54 early.
So, but the answer to that question is that they full of more junk than a sausage. Like all of these dudes. So we were talking about, 147 pounds, that's the weight class. You rarely had any of them dudes fight each other. And it's like, poof, everybody's gone. It's either some dudes getting old, they long in the tooth. Some dudes can't make the weight. Some dudes, Spence is, and that's not even a viable option. Crawford is like picking and choosing who he wants. So it's really, these divisions, we keep saying are like the best divisions, right? They're not the best divisions because they're not fighting each other. It's like the Cold War. It's like it's a standoff, and it gets frustrating. So now Boots is left with these subpar dudes, and it's gonna be the same thing with him. When is he gonna fight somebody? Is he gonna fight? By the time he get the 154, that's gonna be like poof, voila, nobody's there again because you're gonna have Crawford is on his way out. He probably won't get a chance to get to him. He won't get like Charlo. If he's on his way out. So he's gonna have a whole career of the same stuff that these other dudes been doing. Some of it is, I wouldn't necessarily say it's his fault, but they went a long time without fighting anybody. He's like 30-something old, and it's like, dude, come on, man. Like I don't know. I might be going to UFC, bro. You understand what I'm saying? At least they be fighting each other. All right, so let me go ahead and go back because my man fought yesterday. He's gonna have the same problem. My boy, Jai Opataya. So he was in the action yesterday against Jordan Thompson, and he looked outstanding. I never seen Jordan Thompson before, but I know he's a guy out of the UK with some power. But the things that I saw from Opataya, he's gonna be tough to beat. He has some real shifty feet. He gets in and gets out with minimal damage being done to him. He is very accurate. Speed, you know what I'm saying, for that weight class. Reflexes, like the skills, he has the skills to pay the bills. I can see him cleaning out that weight class and possibly going up and kind of doing a Usyk things, but he's just a little smaller than Usyk though. Like that's the only problem that I see if he decided to try to go up and take on the big boys. But it's going to take some time for him to be able to do what it is he needs to do in terms of trying to like unify the division. Because you got guys there like Dorticus. It's the same thing, man. It's for him. His problem is going to be the side of the street thing because he's on the zone, and those other champions are in other. They fight for different promotional companies, but like I said, you got Dorticus. You got Badu Jack, and then what is it? Billum Smith, who had just beat old boy, and so he's gonna have that situation moving forward. But he's a bad dude, man. That was the first time I actually checked him out. Now moving forward or his next bout, they're saying that he's probably gonna face Bradis again in a rematch, and he was trying to face Bradis this go around, but Bradis got sick. And then there's a couple other guys that he might face. But again, that's going to take him off the track of being able to unify the weight class. If you haven't seen him, man, yeah, check that boy out. He's a bad dude. I would consider him like a pound for pound caliber type talent. You know, he's just going to have the dance partners in order to be able to showcase them skills. I know you fellas didn't see it, so I'm not even going to ask you about it. And so let's go ahead and get off into these predictions. So boom, next week. Out of nowhere, man. Like nobody's even been talking about this. Just, you know, I saw it like just being on ESPN's boxing schedule. But as far as like promotion or anything like that, I haven't heard anything about this fight. But anyway, next week you got who you guys call Zerd after he got kind of, you know, whooped on, blanked. by Bivol in his last fight. He's going to be going against Joe Smith, who got whitewashed against Better Beef. What do you think about this matchup? Who do you like in this one?
So my prediction for this fight, pain for Joe Smith Jr. That dude's gonna feel it. Just looking at these guys and how they match up, even size wise, Smith is a few inches taller, but he has a longer reach and everything. He has a 76-inch wingspan. But he comes off as to me like a lot smaller fighter. Of course, Zerto is a heavier guy.
Oh, you said who's taller?
Zerto is taller. Zerto is like 6'2", 6'3".
Okay.
But Smith has a longer, reach. But really, Smith is a longer fighter, but he's gonna be a lot smaller in that ring. He comes off as a fighter that's even smaller than what he'll look like. He's gonna look smaller than a 6 foot person versus a 6'2" person to me. And also this fight is gonna take place at cruiserweight, I believe. I think it's gonna be cruiserweight, and I don't think that's gonna help Joe Smith and his style. I think he's kind of an overachiever. And he has a lot of heart. But I think it got to a point where his luck ran out, especially in his last fight against Bitterbeef. Now, of course, Zerto is not, I don't think, put Zerto on that level as a Bitterbeef, but I do think his only loss is to Dimitri Bivol, who we've seen can upset anybody. He can move. He's a taller fighter. He can move. He can run around the ring. He has all this boxing ability that Joe Smith Jr. does not have. So the way Joe Smith Jr. is it's weird because even though Joe Smith Jr. has a higher knockout percentage, I think Zerto will be the puncher in this fight. And in order for Joe Smith Jr. to win this fight, he's going to have to give Zerto something to think about early. And I think he's going to try, but I think his style is just going to play into Zerto's hands. And I think Gilberto Ramirez will stop Joe Smith Jr. by the 7th round.
Yeah,
go ahead. Because Vela always say different. He gets to where it is that he's going, but I don't necessarily agree how he got to where he is in result. You understand what I'm saying? Because
you got it, bro.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say this because Zerto is gonna be the puncher to a certain degree, but he's gonna the tricky part of this fight. You have to pick Zerto because of his activity, and he has some skills, especially against guys the caliber of Joe Smith. But Joe Smith is so tough, and he stays in fights, and he has that big punch. He has that big right hand. Now, my concern is at certain points that Zerto does get tagged sometimes, and just taking a look, man. Let me go ahead and go back to this. I don't know, my computer's tripping. I'm just going back to his resume. See, that's a meager resume, man. Like, he don't really be fighting anybody, and he was going tooth and nail with Jesse Hart and people like that. Alonzo Lopez at certain moments. So Joe Smith is going to have his opportunities to nail him and catch him, and that's my concern with Zerto in this fight, because his confidence. I don't know how much confidence he's going to have, or how much confidence is going to be taken away from him after being beat up so bad against Bivol. You know what I'm saying? It's like he put a lot of time and effort into that, and for the outcome to be the way it was, will he still have like lingering effects from that and then end up getting caught up? Just based on the way both guys fights, I would have to lean towards Zerto, but I'm gonna lean more towards a 12-round unanimous decision. But it's gonna be some rocky moments in there dealing with Joe Smith. I think Joe Smith is tough. And then when you talked about Better Beef is just that dude. Like, you talking about an elite fighter, that's another elite fighter that you facing with some power. And the matchup wasn't gonna bode well for Joe, because you're talking about a two-handed puncher, and Joe Smith isn't hard to touch, and you getting clipped by that dude. Now, will he have some lingering effects? He hasn't fought since then, but I think Joe is an old blood and guts guy. Zer, if you see 44-1 with 30 knockouts, he's not like a one punch type dude. So I think that's going to enable Joe to stick around, and I think that Zerto will win like a 9-3 type victory where he's going to have some rocky moments in there. What about you, fellas?
Yeah, man. Both of you guys made good points. I think though, I think so. Joe Smith Jr. is 34, and you guys already talked about the better be a fight and the long layoff. So long layoff obviously is from what, like June of last year to now, and he only lasted 2 rounds that fight. So for all intents and purposes, if we're talking about a fight, the layoff is really from January of that year, where he beat he beat Steve Jaffrard. That was the last time he actually put rounds in. And so, obviously the layoff doesn't really favor Joe Smith Jr. in that regard. To Vale's point, the new weight class will definitely favor Zerto much more. Joe Smith Jr. is a nice size light heavyweight, but he's gonna be a small cruiser, especially compared to Zerto. Zerto, he came in what, if I recall correctly, 12 pounds overweight from light heavy. And so he was already weighing at 184. And so he's a big dude. So it's going to be nothing for him to come in at that cruiserweight limit. Whereas I feel like Zerto did this because he had to. Like his body, whatever he did going into that camp, like his body is like, all right, we were cruiserweight now. But for Joe Smith Jr., he had kind of fought a lot of guys at light heavyweight. And so he wasn't having the opportunities at light heavyweight. So he took he did what he had to do. And so he's kind of moving up by circumstance. And he still likes to fight. And so, but I don't think that's going to favor him in this one. And so I'm going to have to go, I'm going to go Zerto, but probably by decision as well. I'm just going to bank on, I can see him stopping him, but the safe money for me is a decision. So that's where I'm going. What about you, Ty?
Yeah, this is a tough one for me, man. It's definitely a toss up. Both guys are coming off of losses against, some of the best fighters in the division. Both guys got some power. I think Joe, even though Zerto has more fights with more knockouts, Smith definitely has a lot of power. So it's a toss up, man. I think in a sense that, Zerto, I think he's just not like disciplined, or even though he's only coming off one loss against, Bivol, it's still he didn't make weight against a journeyman, and Rosado. So that was like, to me, that was bad on his part. So this fight, it's a toss up, man. But I think I probably will lean towards Zerto by decision. But if Smith wins, I'll probably go with Smith by KO.
Definitely. All right. Then last but not least, as far as predictions are concerned, you got Lee Wood. He's going to be facing Josh Warrington also next week early. You guys have any thoughts on this one? Who you liking this
one? Man, this is like an undercard fight, man. I don't know how these fights be main events, man. It's probably it's the zone. I'll sit through it, man. I think neither guy got a lot of power. Lee Wood really don't have power. Lee Wood has the better skills, I think. He, utilizes jab. He utilizes distance pretty well, but he's very slow too. And Josh Warrington, I think, been through not many wars, but he's had some rough fights with specifically Mauricio Lara, which, I believe had a draw in one fight and was stopped in the other fight. And Warrington, to me, takes way too much punishment in his career to have a long career. So I do think this fight will go the distance. I think Warrington is probably going to get cut pretty bad. I can kind of see it. So I predict that Lee Wood will probably win a decision over Josh Warrington.
Yeah, Warrington, he like you said, he's been in a lot of wars. His only stoppage loss was to Lara back in 2021. He lost his belt to Luis Alberto Lopez last December. So I don't know how he's honestly coming off a loss and getting this shot. To be honest with you, I don't know if it's a promotional thing or he's just still a draw. Wood has a ton of heart, and he just always seems to find a way to get the job done. And when I see these guys, like I think Warrington is a good fighter as well, obviously former champion, but I feel like in terms of who wants it more and who's willing to work harder, neither has a bunch of intangibles, but when I look at the tangibles, I think that that meter goes in the favor of Wood. I couldn't see the stoppage unless he like really just breaks Warrington down. And Warrington Wood is actually older than Warrington. And so yeah, I don't see a stoppage, so I'm gonna go Wood by decision as well. That's what I'm thinking.
I think in this fight right here, so you got Wood. Wood is tough. He's a good little tough fighter. I think that he kind of Lara didn't do himself any favors that last fight because he took everything for granted and gave Wood the opportunity to get some get back and get that 12-round unanimous decision win in their rematch. I thought that Warrington avoided Lara like the plague once he got knocked out. Then they had the technical draw. And then it was like, I don't want to see any more parts of Lara, And so he moved in a different direction. So I think it's still a little bit of unfinished business with Lara with both to a certain degree, more so with Warrington than it is with Wood. Because like I said, Lara just didn't come to, he didn't bring his lunch pail with him that last fight. Now, as far as these guys, I think, see, Warrington to me is a guy, he can't take guys for granted. Like I think that his losses that he had, I think that he looked at Lara. Nobody knew anything about Lara. He thought he was just going to do what he normally does, overwhelm him, and that'd be enough. But he found out that Lara has packs a pretty big punch, and he's no pushover. And so he ended up, like I say, taking him for granted, and he ended up losing. I think he also did that when he lost against Lopez. Like a lot of people didn't know much about Lopez and his little awkward style. He thought that he'd be able to overwhelm him, and he got caught up again. But that was a very close fight. Now, here, he's not going to take Wood for granted. And to answer your question, Danny, it isn't because he's deserving of this shot. It's more so a UK thing. Like these are UK draws. And so he has a matchup that he can take, one of those defenses. I forget what they call them, but non-mandatory, some type of optional fight that he has. So he decided to take this one. Pretty good money, fighting somebody from the UK. It's going to be a sellout, a big draw out there. So that's the reason why this fight is being made. Now, the prediction that I have for this fight, I'm going to go with Warrington because I think this is going to be one of his last hurrahs. I think that his antennas are going to be up. He doesn't want to lose to somebody that's from his neck of the woods, if you will. No pun intended. And with their styles, I can see him overwhelming Wood because Wood is a little bit on the slow side. And the way he fights is more of a UK style that Warrington will be used to, not like Lopez, not like Lara. And he's going to be able to do enough. I think it's going to be a close fight, but I think he's going to be able to do enough in order to get a 12-round majority decision, split decision, maybe a unanimous decision, close. But I favor Warrington in this one.
Yeah, I'll probably go with Lakewood by decision. Both guys did fight Lara, and Warrington didn't beat him neither time in the fight. Wood was able to come back and get redemption. So I just think going into this fight that Leigh Wood wants it more, and that he'll probably win the fight by decision. I probably say unanimous decision.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you fellas gonna be wrong, but it's all good, man. Make sure everybody listening, man, you hit that like and subscribe button. We put a lot of work in. Also, hit that like and subscribe button if you're on Ty's channel as well. All right, so now we got a couple topics we're gonna talk about. We got the boxing news again. This is not in any particular order, fellas, but anybody who want to chime in on these topics, we're gonna go ahead and let you go ahead and cook. Okay. So the first order of business, it's looking like December 23rd. Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. The fight has been signed. Now we're gonna get the undisputed heavyweight championship that we've all been looking for. This is gonna cap off a great year in boxing. Spence Crawford, you had Plant Benavidez, you had Tank and Ryan, you just had Charlo and Canelo. I mean, this is just going to put a bow tie on the year. What do you guys think? Who do you like? What say you, fellas?
Man, so I'm glad this fight is signed. It's interesting that, of course, Tyson Fury has this fight with Ngannou from UFC, the UFC heavyweight champ, in a boxing match, which I think is obviously he's overlooking that. Not saying he should have trouble with Francis Ngannou, but I can see him having more trouble than usual, considering he's kind of just looking past that into a Usyk fight, while Francis is out there training Mike Tyson and stuff. But still, I think I would not favor Fury to lose to a UFC fighter. So against Alexander Usyk, I don't know. I don't know who I would favor in this fight. I slightly favor. Okay, I'll slightly favor Fury based off his size and that his versatility, but you never know which Fury you're going to get. And if it's not a serious Fury, Usyk would win his fight. So it's hard to make a prediction.
Serious Fury for the undisputed championship, bro.
That's true. Is his heart in it though?
How is that possible?
Is his heart in it?
Yeah. So let's take that out. Them going against each other just straight up. None of the other shenanigans or any little stuff like that. Who you like between these two dudes?
I don't know. I know Usyk. I know for a fact Usyk is going to be in it. He's going to want to be in it 100%. Tyson Fury.
Is that right? Like once he get hit in the body, is he going to be in it then? Or is he going to try to,
That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. I meant mentally he's going to be up for this fight.
I'm saying, what about once he get hit in his tummy though? Like, is he going to be up for it then?
He might get knocked out, but he'll be up for this fight. I can 100% sure that Usyk will be up for this fight. Tyson Fury, I'm not 100% sure. If Tyson Fury is up for this fight, he'll beat Usyk. But Tyson Fury, we don't know.
How do you know? I'm trying to figure. Give me some
he has a fight with a UFC guy. And he's been planning all these exhibition circus fights. Okay. He just retired.
Can he get paid though? So he just retired, but how did they look against Dillian White?
That's Dillian White. That's not Alexander Usyk.
And Daniel Dubois hit him in the tummy and dropped him. But anyway, Danny, what you think about this fight, man? Who would you favor at this particular point?
Long story short, man, I love it. This is what I wanted back in April, but I'm glad we're getting it now. I just hope that I hope Fury doesn't get touched, anything major by Ngannou, because that's a quick turnaround. But in terms of the fight, just going into the fight, assuming like both are healthy, and Fury doesn't have any injuries, I gotta go with the Gypsy King, In terms of his mentality going into it, he's a guy that could retire, but he can't stay away. And he has to kind of play head games with himself to keep himself in it. But he's also in the business of maximizing profit, which is why he did what he did against, doing a crossover fight. But I think he's going to be completely serious going into this, as will Usyk. But if I'm going for the safe money bet, I have to go Fury. I'm not gonna put a decision or a knockout, but I'm gonna go Fury with this one. What about you, Ty?
Yeah, I was excited about the news, when I heard the fight. But to me, Tyson Fury, he's not my favorite heavyweight, but to me, he is one of the best heavyweights. So I'm going with Fury by stoppage, because if you look at Fury's resume, man, he's been in there with the bronze bomber 3 times, man. He took his best shots. He always got back up and he finished the fight strong. So to me, Fury just shows that he's got the dog in him. And of course, he's great in himself. He's moved up to the heavyweight division, beat Joshua 2 times. So it's a very good fight. But I just feel that Fury, his footwork, his power, he just got all the tools that makes him a great fighter. And Usyk does too, but I just think Fury wins this one probably by a late stoppage.
Yeah, man. I feel you on that, Ty. And I could see my main man Gypsy King getting that stoppage too. You know what I'm saying? Slapping him around in that belly section, putting him out of his misery, seeing what he had for dinner the night before. You understand what I'm saying? Because that's what the Gypsy King does. He takes advantage of your weakness. He's good at that. But all in all, I can't really see Usyk winning this one, because again, every time I see Usyk fight somebody, he's fighting somebody that really can't move that well. They kind of like robotic or something like that, or they just have a certain trick that they do, a Chisora or somebody like that. This is a guy he's facing that's really nimble on his toes. He can box, he can move, he's big, strong, sets you up for stuff mentally, tough as they come. I don't listen to Tyson Fury when he be saying stuff. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna retire because the stuff that he says just doesn't match. He's one of those 3-car Molly players. Like if you get caught up, like okay, it's right there, and he be like, it's really over here, and that's what he's doing to you. Every step of the way, he just got this little manipulation that he's got going on. So I don't listen to it. I just follow his actions. And when he's telling me, Tiafimo does it sometimes too, but not for the same reasons, I believe. Like Tiafimo will tell you anything. I'm retiring. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. Then next thing you know, you're like 2 weeks later, he's talking about that guy can't beat me. You're like, dude, I thought you was retired. You understand what I'm saying? So don't follow that. Don't follow the lips. You understand what I'm saying? Follow the actions. And so in this fight, like I say, I love Tyson Fury all day, every day. More than likely a 12-round unanimous decision, but I could see him stopping Usyk. And I love Usyk. Usyk is a tough guy, man. He does, what he needs to do. He's also mentally tough. I just think the great big man beats the great little man. Let me go ahead and go to the next one. Thank you for sharing out, fellas. Let me go moving and grooving. I see why DT didn't get the link, because like you said, he was in your chat on time. All right, so now that's what Eddie Hearn he reacting to. He got the little Starbucks on there. I had me some Starbucks today as well. But Eddie, you might want to get some of that hand bucks, bro. That's a good coffee. Now, Jamel, we talked about that already. His brother, but him on the Benavidez versus Andrade undercard, it's confirmed that Jamal Charlo is going to be facing Jose Benavidez. What do you guys think about this one? Is that a good comeback fight for Jamal Charlo?
But the amount of time that Jamal has been out and what he's been dealing with, I think it's a good comeback fight for him to just get his feet wet, get active. He's going to be going against somebody who, of course, Jose Benavidez is, he hasn't been the same for a while. But he, if anything, he's going to at least be there to try. So he's not going to just lay down for you. So I do think it is a good fight to get Jamal Charlo back on track and get him serious again to see what he wants to do with his career and his life. So I think Jamal will likely, if he's serious and gets in that ring, he should be able to stop Jose Benavidez. So that's what I see.
Yeah, I like the fight for Charlo more than I do Benavidez. Benavidez is probably really still a welterweight, unless you watching Creed 3, in which case he a heavyweight somehow. I don't know how they pull it up or whatever. He's still probably still a welterweight, but he keeps moving up in weight classes, and not much of his skill is going with him. And so for Charlo, it could be a good showcase fight against someone with the name who won't pose much of a physical threat. Because Benavidez, he really was his best at the lower weight classes, even below 147. I believe he had that only one fight at 54 against Danny Garcia. Long layoff, and now he's having this. And so for both fighters, it'll be a long layoff. But in terms of skill set, in terms of dimensions, it heavily favors Charlo. And I there may be better fights out there, but in terms of just wanting to see him back in the ring, and in terms of Benavidez being on the same card as his brother, it makes a lot of sense. I just don't like it for Benavidez.
Yeah, I think it's a decent fight. I thought, coming off a 2.5-year layoff that, Amal would probably, fight a lower caliber opponent. But, I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it at the end of the day. I think Maul has more to prove. He's coming off a long layoff. He's coming off a lot of the personal issues, the mental health issues. So I think once that bell rings, he's just gonna let it all out. You know what I mean? So I think Maul really wants to make a statement. He was just recently smacked in public by Caleb Plant. So, I can see him trying to get, Benavidez out the way and trying to make that fight happen with Plant down the road. But, yeah, it's a good fight. And, it's definitely a good fight, on the undercard, of a huge pay-per-view. So I'm probably going to lean for Maul by a decision or a late stoppage.
Man, this is useless to me. A useless fight. You got a dude he's facing at 154. I mean, he looked bigger than Danny Garcia, but Danny Garcia is also somebody who came from 140 to 147, then was fighting at 154. So what is he? I'm sure the fight is not at 160 because Maul has been off 2.5 years. So it's going to be closer to 168. That's going to be crazy for him to be facing Jose Benavidez, who, to me, when he looks good is because of the fact that he's bigger than the guys that he's facing. So he has that advantage. I can't see him looking good against somebody that's bigger than him, stronger than him, more power. It's not going to be able to handle it. And I heard some people say, well, he fought against Montiel, and Montiel was cracked. Well, Montiel has some power, at the very least. And if you take somebody like that for granted, and that could be, problematic. Benavidez doesn't have that type of power, to impact them like that. So from the standpoint of just getting some rounds in, getting back into the ring, that sort of thing, then it's good for him. But I still kind of think that it's useless because then what's next? Is he going to take another guy, like a little step up, and then go for like an Adames, or if he's going to go to 168, a Plant? I just don't think it has to be at least a 3-fight process for him to be able to be prepared for a Plant. You can't fight no Jose Benavidez and get ready for Caleb Plant. And Caleb Plant is licking his chops at you because you curd out to him. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. I don't like the fight. It's just going to be something I might end up. I'm not a smoker. I'm just saying it's a smoke break type fight. You know what I'm saying? I come back, you let me know who won the fight. This ain't it, bro.
All right, who's gonna win the fight. You were like, let me know who won the fight. No, you come back and be like, oh, so what round did it end? When did Maul win it?
Yeah, man. Like I don't want to see this. It's way too many guys that he could be facing that are legitimate, like guys that at least at that weight who would be considered like a gatekeeper who you should still be able to handle, but it's like a low risk. You understand what I'm saying? As far as like them being able to beat you, but get you some rounds in. They might be tough enough to take you all 12. That sort of thing where you get something out of it. I just don't see him
like who, like a Terrell Goucher or something.
I can see it. Terrell Goucher might be a little bit too much right now. You know what I mean? Because he possesses some quickness, but somebody like the dudes he was facing before, like the Brian Adams type dudes, the Hugo Centenos, but he might have already faced all those guys, so he don't even have any of them left. You know, but we'll see. What do you think about this? I saw this headline on Boxing News 24. They were saying that Jelly John, he done put himself, he looked too dangerous now, and that he might be the new Luis Ortiz, that the risk outweighs the reward. A lot of guys don't really want to face him. They might try to, box him out and just let him age himself out. You see that happening to old Jelly?
No. It's a new Luis Ortiz. I'm like, in what way? Of course, Jelly Jong is dangerous, so he does have things he do that's very, very well. He's faster than I thought he would be. And he looked good against Joe Joyce. But when you compare him to someone like Luis Ortiz, Ortiz wasn't avoided just because he had power or anything like that. Ortiz was also a slick southpaw. He had amateur pedigree. He had all these different things that he can land in his bag. You know what I'm saying? He's part of that Arislandi Lara group, you know what I'm saying? Built by the Cuban system. So he can do more.
Get he medaled in the Olympics.
Yeah, but he doesn't. To me, he doesn't have this. It's not like, to me, he was never on the level of a Luis Ortiz as an amateur. And I think that he hasn't shown me. Jelly Jong is skilled, but he hasn't shown me that level of skill. And I'm not saying that he can't be better than Luis Ortiz, or that he's not on that level as far as level of danger. But I'm just saying, as far as skill wise and style wise, there are different styles of fighters.
Look at it like this, like from the standpoint of being avoided because he's dangerous, not the fact that they're equivalent or he's better or anything like that, but the fact that the danger that he possesses, the power that from his standpoint is more the power, because he's been, tagging dudes early, but just the danger that he possesses or he brings to the table does that make him the, quasi similar to Luis Ortiz in the past?
No, because most of the heavyweight division are dangerous with dangerous power that can get you out of there. So most of them are. Like, I mean, you look at the top, Frank Sanchez can get you out of there. You know what I'm saying? Jerry Anderson can get you out of there. And that's not even the upper echelon. You know what I'm saying? As much as we bag on Anthony Joshua, AJ got enough power to get you out of there. You got dangerous power.
So what, you think AJ will face Jelly John?
I don't know, probably not. But AJ ain't gonna face anybody. AJ might not face anybody. AJ wouldn't face Andy Ruiz for a third time.
He already fought him, but you saying
third time. That's
somebody he fought already. Will he face Jelly John? You saying no? So then it makes him. He sounds like he's similar to Luis Ortiz because they did.
So is Deontay Wilder similar to Luis Ortiz? Because AJ ain't gonna face him neither.
Right. So that therefore, like a person like Deontay Wilder probably be the only guy who would fight him, because the other guys, it's like the risk outweighs the reward. Why should I have to go through him? He doesn't have a belt or anything like that. And so guys like Wilder, that's the reason why Wilder fought him. Wilder said, I fought him because nobody else would.
No, I just think they're just different fighters. And I disagree with that statement.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if we're strictly talking about him being avoided, I think it's too early to tell. Any fighter, fighters in weight divisions, there are certain fighters that's always going to, like, they might not like your style or they might not like their chances, so they might avoid you. But if you look at who he's been fighting, he fought Filip Hrgović last year, top 10 fighter. This year he fought Joe Joyce twice, top 10 fighter. And so we have, now that he's in the driver's seat, I mean, not the driver's seat, but now that he's in position to compete for a title, we got to see what his 2024 looking like and then revisit this conversation, because like we don't know if he's avoided yet because he's been fighting the guys. So I think it's too early to really say if he's that. But time will tell,
I don't think he's avoided or anything like that. I think his team does need to move him, considering he is already 40. So time isn't on his side, but I don't think nobody fears him. But like as Danny just mentioned, he's got some. He just beat Joe Joyce 2 times back to back. So that's an awesome win. Joe Joyce was undefeated, stopping everybody, even though he was slow. So that's a real good look on his part. But at the same time, we all know that he fatigues. So I don't think nobody's afraid of him. The fact that he's 40 and he fatigues in the later rounds. But I do think his team need to move him, fast as possible, since time is not on the side. I mean, we do have a lot of fighters that fought well into the 40s, but the late 40s, mid 40s. But I can't really see that happening for Zhang. So I think couple more fights against some good names and just hang it up. But yeah, I don't want to see him end up like Luis Ortiz. Luis Ortiz was the boogeyman, but end up taking some bad losses and getting stopped in a lot of his fights. So I think he's got a couple more fights under his belt, and they should be against some good names.
He's in an unfortunate situation now that those guys decided to go at it. As far as Usyk and Fury, because that could be a rematch, that could be a trilogy. You never know. So that's just going to keep him further and further along, or waiting, for one of those guys, because all of the belts lie with those two. You know what I'm saying? So then what's next? Those other guys could, conceivably avoid him. Promotional wise, they might be in a tricky situation where, again, the risk outweighs the reward. And so it's going to be interesting to see who takes that Jelly John smoke. You understand what I'm saying? People keep saying he gets tired in the middle of fights, but you got to get to the middle of that fight, though. You understand what I'm saying? That left hand be coming them bombs. You understand what I'm saying? He got them Chinese missiles coming at you. I don't know if you're going to be ready for that World War III, dealing with Jelly. But also, let me go ahead and go to the next slide that we have here. We've got, did we talk about that already or no? Or do we want to chop it up a little bit? Now that it's official, like a referee with a whistle, you got the David Benavidez, Demetrius Andre fight. Any thoughts on this, man? Who you so far before you do your research, and I know you fellas do some extensive research when it comes to these bouts. Before, just off the top of your head, who you like? Who you favor?
I would favor Andrade for the upset. Okay. I think this is his time. I think he understands this is time. He's been waiting on a fight like this for the longest time. Benavidez has been also, but Benavidez has had more experience on this level as opposed to Andrade. And I feel like, it's his time to shine. It's his put up or shut up. And I think he understands his moment. And it's good that this fight is coming. We were talking about all the fights that were being made this year, with the Crawford Spence and the Usyk the Fury. I'm not saying this is on that level, but this is an intriguing fight because it's two guys, both undefeated, both trying to audition for that Canelo payday. And I think the winner would be deservedly so. They would have earned it. So I think Demetrius Andre, he's gonna surprise many.
I hope so. I like the guy, man. I do have concerns for him going into it. First of all, his relative inactivity. Since 2020, he had one fight in 2020, two in 2021, both at 160, and then he just had that 10-rounder. First of this year, and so he's older, 35, and he's relatively inactive. And then this is his first fight at 168. He started his career at what was it 150 at 54, I believe. He started his career, so the smaller guy, and so he's slick, he's crafty. I think he's a smarter fighter than Benavidez. It's just like, will his craftiness be enough to get Benavidez to respect him, or will it be another a higher level version of Benavidez Plant? I don't know, but so I'm kind of gonna bank on the activity and the size of Benavidez, but I like Andre, and I really do hope he gets the shot because, I will hope. I think if Benavidez doesn't win this, he could bounce back. But I think if Andre win this, his days are kind of numbered at that relatively high tier level for super middleweight. So
yeah, I'm going for Benavidez probably by decision or late stoppage. Like I said, Andre, man, his career has just been real funny, man. Turning down fights due to small purses, bad promotion, inactivity, as Danny mentioned. So, Benavidez is a power puncher. He comes forward, he throws crazy combinations. And I think all that may be too much for Andre at this point in his career. He is 35. This is a shot at fighting a big name on a big stage. So I just think that it's kind of too late for him to make a statement against the caliber of David Benavidez. Benavidez fought Plant. Hurt him multiple times in the fight. He stopped the rail. Andre hasn't really had that chance to really fight those names. So, and I'm seeing a lot of videos of him, working out, and then he's got like this mask on. So he's definitely working on his conditioning, his strength and conditioning. But it's from me watching his fights in the past, it does seem like he tires in his fights. He doesn't have the best gas tank. And like, to me, that's just dangerous, to have going against an opponent like David Benavidez. So my prediction for the fight is David Benavidez by, late stoppage or decision. But, I hope that he can pull it off and, win this fight by decision. I don't think he stops Benavidez. He just doesn't have the power to.
Yeah, man, I just want to shout out Benavidez for, his willingness to fight somebody like Andre, because you're talking about a risk outweighing a reward. This is one of those type of fights, because he could conceivably not get as much credit as he would deserve if he is victorious, because then people, he was 154 pounds. He's one, they always going to, have those type of things to say. But at the end of the day, we all know, true boxing fans know the talent that Andre brings to the table, the slipperiness, the angles, fighting a lefty. When I saw the Nicholson fight, it had me a little bit more concerned. He did his thing in there. It's just that he looked a little more fatigued than I anticipated him being or having in that fight. And you can't run down like that against David Benavidez. But it could have been like you talked about, Danny, as far as the long layoff, getting some rounds in. And when he's preparing for David Benavidez, he's not going to, leave any stone unturned. So I'm sure he'll be ready as much as he possibly can. If I'm just looking at both guys, as far as like skills are concerned, I would have to favor Andrade. It's just more so, will he wear down throughout the fight, which will enable David to come on, and will he be able to survive? It could be like a sort of a Plant type thing, but right now I think it's a 50-50 fight. I can't call it. I would have to see more and hear more about what's going on in those training camps, but that's a good fight right there. Very, very good fight. Like I say, 2023 has been.
So who you picking today, right now, off the top of your head?
Like on top of my head, I can see it going either way. Because I can see,
man. One.
I mean, it's still early. I asked you guys to make a prediction. For me, I always got to keep it 100. You understand what I'm saying? I just got to keep it 92 plus 8. You know what I'm saying? So that's just how I do it. Like I said, I can see it both ways. I can see Benavidez being too gum.
Huh? We all can see it both ways.
No, you can't.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Who you
gonna put stuff in people's mouth? You understand what I'm saying? Like,
gun to your head. Who wins?
Then gun in my head. Then I'm gonna be like, man, why you sitting up here got a gun in my head? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's only a fight. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one, man. Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. We all knew that this wasn't going to happen in January, but it's confirmed that the fight is not happening in January. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so what's the reason why it's not happening?
Sir, you knew the topic was up there. How are you gonna ask questions? What you could have did your research.
No, I did, but it ain't happening. If I had to predict somebody that fought, it's probably got something to do with Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua, because they never been keen on this fight. You know what I'm saying? So it's unfortunate. This is a fight that should have happened like 7-8 years ago anyway. AJ obviously doesn't want this fight. Man, he made a lot of money in his career. He's like the third most paid boxer, but as far as standing, he basically flushed his career down the toilet. So that's all I'm gonna say about
This not the same scenario, but it goes back to what you said, Will, earlier about, and I forget the scenario, but about not listening to what they say and just wait for what happens. That's where I'm at with this. It's just like tell me when the contracts are signed. Like I don't want to hear the back and forth. I don't want to, and I kind of get it because like these, they probably catch Eddie Hearn in public and they don't ask him the same questions, and then you got places like this that'll report the news on it. But like let me know when it happens. But if not, Water and Big Bang, I would like to see it, brother. I would like to see it. But with this, man, yeah, I'm not gonna pay it a whole lot of mind until I see contracts signed.
Yeah, for me, I'm with Val. This was a fight that I wanted to see years ago. And, both guys have taken a few losses now. So I'm not highly interested in it like I was, years ago when they both were undefeated. But, AJ's already fought twice this year. So he's been active. And, Wilder, it's now October now. So Wilder has only got one round in a year. So to me, that's bad as, for a fighter who was once, a former champion, he would stand active. So him and Andy Ruiz obviously couldn't work out a deal. So I really want to see Wilder more in the ring more than I want to see AJ, because we haven't seen anything from Wilder in a whole year. So I'm not even worrying about this fight. If it doesn't happen, I'm just hoping Wilder can get something locked in and that we can see him fight somebody soon.
Yeah, that would be good. If we did get a chance to see them in the ring. I think more so for me, it's let's say for instance they're saying it's not going to happen. So then who are you going to fight? So then that's where Jelly John comes in at. So Eddie Hearn, I heard him saying that he didn't mention Jelly John, but when Jelly John came up, he was saying how that's an easy victory for AJ because he's so slow, And so that's what I'll be interested in more so than anything else, is if they decide not to fight next, then who would they fight? And like you said, Ty, that's my biggest concern for Wilder, is he likes to fight big fights. And, the time has been ticking since his last fight. And you don't want to go into another big fight with the limited amount of rounds that he's had. He's going to be rusty, you know what I'm saying? Or he might have stamina issues. He might, be unable to pull a trigger. You know what I'm saying? You don't know. I don't like guys coming in after these long layoffs. We've seen what happened to Ugas. We've seen what happened to Errol Spence, so on and so forth. So just make sure you make your next move your best move. You understand what I'm saying? Also, let's see, we got a few more that we have. Matter of fact, that's it, man. That is it. Congratulations to you fellas for going through the gauntlet. I certainly appreciate that.
Woo!
Some job there.
Woo!
Danny, did you want to make the announcement here, or did you want to keep that under wraps?
No, man, we can. I'll go ahead and put it out there. The guys, the guys have known for some months now, but for the listeners, especially the listeners who've been rocking with us for a minute, this is actually my final episode as a regular on Last Ones at the Bar. You know what I mean? So to the listeners, first, definitely appreciate you guys rocking with us, especially back when we started on Anchor. You know what I mean? Back when we were getting sometimes 13 downloads a week, sometimes 20, sometimes 25. But to now, where we're at now, getting hundreds on YouTube and, 100,000 plus total, 150,000 plus total, and 4,000 plus a week through the Underdog. And shout out to the Underdog too for rocking with us. But definitely appreciate you. And last but not least, to the guys, man, it's been a journey, definitely appreciate y'all. It started out as us meeting randomly at Buffalo Wild Wings, for the long time listeners. Turned into a group chat, turned into a Zoom call, turned into a podcast with art and logo and an intro, you know what I mean? And so we really made something special. And there's a lot of people that, it's hard to get someone to listeners to change their way of life, to go from not listening to anything or listening to something else to incorporating you into their life weekly. You know what I mean? And so And so we did that. You guys will continue to do that. You know what I mean? Um, and so appreciate you guys for that, man. It's always love and Will, this was kind of your idea, in the beginning, you know what I mean? And I I didn't like my voice at first. So I was never interested in podcasting. I was like, I'll leave that to the other folks. But, we got into this and I was like, I can do this, and it went from that. And for me personally, to start 2 other podcasts solo and to be featured on other podcasts and um to really say I want this to be my craft and upgrading material, learning how to edit, um and to the fact where to the point where for me getting other opportunities on other podcasts to co-produce and to write and to even travel on other people's stuff. And starting this was the platform that I had to thank for all the opportunities that I have gotten so far in podcasting and all the opportunities I will get in the future. To people telling me, hey, you can make this a career, if you wanted to. And so I will always remember this as where it started. You feel me? And I appreciate you guys for that. You know what I mean? And for deeming me to be one of the guys you guys wanted to kick it with every week. This is like our, kick it, occasionally throw something back. You know what I mean? Occasionally smoke a cigar back in back in the COVID days, you feel me? And so, man, it's all love, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Nah, man, appreciate you, Danny, man. It's been a long journey. Um, you know, it's not a farewell because you're still gonna join us from time to time. You know what I'm saying? It's just as a regular. So, there's no need to bring out the tissue. You know what I'm saying? It's just more so the regular nature of you being around. But we always gonna connect. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna keep the group chat thing going. As far as where you go moving forward, how are the other podcasts that you have? I know that you were doing something with that. Are you still, working on your other pods?
I will be soon. I've taken a break from it just to, because work got busy and, I was in the process of doing some other stuff in the background, but they will be ramping back up in the fall. The studio that I rent out here, they was actually in the process of moving. So I found a new studio to record in locally. And so yeah, I have some guests lined up. So in the fall, for you guys who wasn't familiar, if you go to the Water Podcast, it's on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. If you go to the Monarch Podcast, under the Monarch brand, again, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, those would be the platforms. For Water Podcast, I'm in season 2, and for Monarch, it's been ongoing, but I have some really good content on there where I talk about life. I talk about people's journeys, especially in business or just following their dreams. And so yeah, those will be ramping up. And I actually have an opportunity with another podcast that my friend runs. He's on the Underdog Podcast Network as well. But we're going to be doing a live show in the Bay Area at the beginning of next month. And so yeah, man, it's gonna be a lot going on in the future. But right now, I've just been kind of trying to just sit down and be still for a little bit and wait till the busy season at my job kind of blew over.
Got you. Got you. Anything you want to share out, Vel, before we wrap this up, man? We got our guy on here for the,
Yeah. Me and Danny, obviously, we go back a little bit further before, the podcast and even Buffalo Wild Wings connected on, especially the boxing tip. Definitely your presence will be missed, but it's encouraging that you'll still be there. Of course, you'll be in spirit, but also you're still one of us. Definitely appreciate your technicality, your respect to the craft. You always want to be better. They can say that's a Virgo thing, but that
For sure.
perfectionist. You always want to be better. You always a lot of times you are the to be the voice of reasoning, and that part is gonna be missed, So salute to you, much respect. I hope you're very successful in whatever you do. I know you will, and you're gonna make us proud.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Respect, bro. Hey, Vail used to be when I used to have the fight nights when I lived up there. Vail used to be at the crib back when I had the English basement. But we go back even farther than that, like he said.
Yeah,
man.
that lamp put that spot on the ceiling or
Yeah,
whatever.
man. They took some of my security deposit for that, but it's all good though. Lesson learned, you know what I mean? But yeah, man, me and Val went to concerts together, went to the same church for a minute. Sister churches more or less. And that's how I got to know Val. So it's always love for both of y'all. And shout out to Ty, man. Me and Ty, we don't connect a lot, but it's always love, brother. Salute to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I wish you success, all your future moves, and like I like to say, man, I took Wilton before, like what y'all do. I'm very inspired, like what y'all do, y'all came together, like you said, y'all met at the bar and everything, and then y'all started the podcast. So I'm very inspired by that. I've only had my podcast for I started it last July, and I remember inviting Woodson on episode 5, and that was my second time having a co-host on, and that was his first time coming on with me, and we kicked it for 2 hours. So I've done a lot of interviews, I've done a lot of live coverage and stuff like that. I just hit over 300 subscribers. So I never thought that I'd be doing a podcast. I never thought I'd be doing the interviews, covering fights. The biggest one that I had was Devin Haney and Lomachenko that got 6,500 views. So I didn't expect none of this. So like I said, I'm inspired by you guys. I hope you guys inspired by me. And of course, man, I've always be on here to kick it with you guys. And like Danny, again, I wish you all the best in your future moves for sure.
Appreciate you, man. Shout out to you, Ty, for your love for the sport, bro. That's gonna take you far. Cause you be at the fights, you getting these guys on, man. You a hustler. Salute to you. You're gonna be fine in this realm. You feel me?
I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
For sure.
Yeah, man. Danny always keep it classy. You know what I'm saying? Even though, sometimes I might get a little raunchy on here, with the Milwaukee O's. But we've made it full circle, man. Even got to the point where we getting our subs up. We even got a little heckling in the chat. You understand what I'm saying? DT3 was getting at us today. So, we take the love with the hate, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it's all about the passion for the sport of boxing. And that's how we came together. And that's how we're going to keep on rocking like a cut-off stocking. You understand what I'm saying? Danny, much appreciation. We got to close this one out. Again, it's going to be the last one with our brother being on here, as a regular, you know what I'm saying? But we'll see him in the future, especially when it comes to the big fights. On that note, fellas, it's time to go ahead and hit that end button. We're going to close this one out. Much respect to you, Ty, as well. And we out. Peace.
Peace.